The Minerva was a merchantman launched in 1773 in the East Indies. She traded there for more than 20 years before making 3 voyages for the British East India Company, which is primarily where information on her that I was able to find comes in for. So, this episode of Warships Merchant Marine is going to be a little bit probably less comprehensive than others, but I do these in as a part-time thing alongside a bunch of other stuff, so I don't have time to go and research as much as I would like. So, we do the best we can, and if more information becomes available to me, I'll revisit it. Anyway, owned by Robert Charnock and later James Pycroft after 1802, and built in Bombay in 1773, she was eventually lost in 1806. She was originally around 440 tons, possibly up to 560, but definitely approaching 560 or 570 by 1803, 1804. By 1802, she was around 36 meters overall, with a beam of 10.5-ish and a depth of hold of 4.6. The ship had a complement of 50 in 1803, but the next year just was just over that. She was armed with 8 carriage guns and 2 swivel guns prior to more specific known armaments that follow. In 1803, she had 16 6-pounders. In 1804, she had 2 9-pounders and 12 24-pounder carronades, probably in addition to at least a few remaining 6-pounders. In 1806, she had 14 24-pounder carronades. That again probably was including at least a few of those 6-pounders. Like I said, this video is primarily going to focus on the voyages made for the British East India Company, but if I find more information on this ship, we'll see what we can do about a follow-up. Anyway, the first voyage, Captain Thomas Blaney, or Blamey, or Tom, whatever you want, sailed Minerva from Southampton on the 22nd of May, 1796, bound for Bengal, arriving in Diamond Harbor by mid-1797. The British planned an expedition in 1797 and 1798 against Manila. Probably going to do a separate video on that. Anyway, in response to the East India Company held 8 regular ships and 3 so-called dismantled ships, whatever that means, in India to support the expedition, and hired some other ships, one of which was Minerva. They left Calcutta on April 25th, passed through Diamond Harbor on May 3rd. However, a peace treaty with Spain resulted in the expedition being canceled. Minerva's owners claimed demurrage, claiming around 2,500 pounds for 106 days. She sailed for home and reached the Downs on January the 30th, 1798. Lloyd's List for February 2nd reports Minerva, Blaney still master. By the way, Blaney now spelled like the race car driver rather than just with a Y. Anyway, it had found the caster, mastered by a man named Salkeld from Bengal in the Downs, ashore at Ramsgate. It is expected that the cargo was saved, probably by Minerva. She was admitted to the Registry of Great Britain on April 14, 1798. Interestingly, this Salkeld, probably Joseph Salkeld from the caster, or Stalkeld, or Joey, or whatever you want to call him, left the Downs on August 6, 1798, and arrived in Cork 4 days later. The government had probably ordered, the East India Company to charter vessels to the government as convict transports. Minerva was more than suited for this as an East Indiaman, and the company got out of having their cargo ships chartered to carry convicts. However, Minerva wasn't initially chartered, and indeed the company had refused to charter her. But more compelling from the government, the company decided to charter the ship and waived its usual surveys and set up a charter voyage for its homeward trip from Port Jackson. Minerva's departure was initially delayed due to the brig Lively under Captain Dobson not arriving at Cork until the 29th of January, 1799. Further delay was caused by the poor health of the political prisoners being transported on the Lively. These postponements postponed her voyage for nearly a year. Surgeon John Washington Price said this regarding the prisoners from the Lively. The prisoners were, quote, in the most wretched, cruel, and pitiable condition I'd ever seen human beings in. He further recorded, quote, it appears to me that Mr. Dobson endeavors to aggravate the punishment of these wretches by every means in his power. Unquote. I'm sure he was a lovely man. 7 died before the remainder were transferred to the Minerva, along with others from Cork's Northgate Bridge Gaol before it sailed from Cork on August 24, 1799, with 165 male and 26 female convicts on board. On the trip, 3 children of the convicts and 4 belonging to one Joseph Holt were born during the trip. She also had 20 men from the New South Wales Marine Corps as guards and a few passengers, including this Holt, who, as a general for the United Irish, had led a large force that had fought against British troops in County Wicklow during the summer and autumn of 1798. With him was Henry Fulton, a clergyman, and another who had been involved in the Irish Rebellion of 1798, but they weren't convicts and were rather transportees who had agreed to self-exile. Another passenger included Captain William Cox, who was appointed paymaster for the New South Wales Corps. Minerva sailed with the Friendship and a few other unarmed vessels. On September 14th, she departed Friendship and their Royal Navy escort, HMS Dryad, the Royal Navy ship returning to Ireland. 2 weeks later, she spotted and exchanged shots with a couple of strange ships with Portuguese colors, but they didn't pursue each other. 3 days later, she encountered 2 Spanish ships, a galleon of some description, and what had been described as a prison ship. I have no idea what either of those would be describing. Anyway, the British crew made ready to fight. Among the gunners were a crew of political prisoners under Holt. As Minerva approached the supposed prison ship, fired a broadside, and Salkeld, probably wisely, decided discretion was the better part of valor and tactically retreated. The Spanish did the same. Later, Holt said that should the Spanish had boarded, he and his men would not have died valiantly for the Union Jack and would have mutinied. Minerva reached Rio on October 10th via Port Jackson on January 11th, 1800. Minerva reached Rio on October 10th and then Port Jackson on January 11th, 1800. She arrived there before Friendship. 3 convicts had died in the voyage, a remarkably low number, all things considered. Salkeld held a liberal attitude with restrictions on the conduct of female convicts, and a number of marriages cropped up. Holt later credited Cox with fostering the humane treatment of the prisoners that had resulted in the small death rate. He later ended up managing Cox's farm. Minerva left Port Jackson for Bengal in April, arriving in Calcutta on June 7th. Homeward bound, she passed Kedagri on October 27th, reached St. Helena, and then Ascension Island, and the Downs by the 26th of May, 1801. She had traveled with company extra ships, whatever that means, including the Varuna, Highland Chief, and the aforementioned Friendship, along with Royal Navy escort in the form of the 12-gun HMS Buffalo. In 1802, she changed hands and underwent repairs. Her new owner was James Pycroft, and new master was George Welton, or Wilsden, or whatever. Her final East India voyage started on the 14th of June, 1802. When she left the Downs, headed for Bengal via St. Helena alongside the Lord Eldon, an East Indiaman. Aboard her is Henry Salt, who would later become Consul General in Egypt, at the time traveling as secretary to Viscount Lord Valentia. She reached Madeira around the 29th of June and St. Helena by mid-August. She ran at the Cape of Good Hope on October 20th, and she picked up future General Ormsby Vandeleur and a portion of the 8th Light Dragoons. She operated from Lord Eldon at the Cape and reached Nicobar Islands on January 5th, 1803, and arrived in Calcutta at the end of the month. She returned to the Downs on the 12th of December. She left Britain again during the ill-fated Peace of Amiens, which broke down by March, and Wilton would receive information, but after he left. Still, according to Lloyd's registers for 1803, the ship would get a new master, one Mr. Dobbs. He received a letter of marque on the 11th of October, 1804, showing the above-mentioned armament. In 1806, Lloyd's registry shows her between London and Barbados, still afloat. These continue relatively unchanged through 1808, Lloyd's register, and then end. However, the register for shipping for 1806 has a voyage of London, Jamaica, and the notation lost. Well, that's all I've got on the Minerva. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be interested to see what y'all think happened to the ship. And if I can find out, I will, of course, do a follow-up video. But I think it might give you something interesting to talk about in the comments. So, yeah, go ahead. I'm expecting at least one of you to say aliens. So, let's see just what kind of stuff y'all can come up with. And when I find out, I'll let you know. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.